This is a program called Basics. We're going to go look at the program by clicking on Program. Here we see the Basics main program, which first instruction says call 100, which means go to subprogram 1, tab 0. Well, we'll go and look at subprogram 1 by clicking it. Here is subprogram 1. Here is tab 0. So this is where it's going to go. Next it says go to AA, but put the return address in R. Here we're at AA. AA says set the value of S to 1. Then it says skip 0 plus S instructions. Well, S is 1, so it's going to skip 1 instruction. It's going to skip this instruction of go to BA, but it will execute this one, go to CA. Down here is CA. CA says return to the address in R. Well, R returns us back here to home. Home says go back to the main program. Go back to Program Basics. Program Basics says to exit. Now we're going to execute this application. You notice that it's not doing anything because it never moved anything to the screen. But we can click on Trail and see what instructions were being executed. First we see the call to subprogram 1, tab 0. Now we see it's in subprogram 1 at tab 0. Tab 0 goes the instruction in subprogram 1, instruction 1. Go to AA, store the return address at R. Then it went to AA, set the value of S to 1, hit the skip instruction of skipping 1 instruction. And over here you can see it was at the 4th instruction. It was told to skip the next one, which would be the 5th one, and go immediately to the 6th one. The 6th instruction says to go to CA. Here it went to CA, saw the return on the address in R, which took it back to the home instruction. Home instruction said go back to the main program, and where it found the exit. And that's the end of the trail. Here we are back in the main program, but I have changed the call to subprogram 1, tab 1. So I'm going to go to subprogram 1. Here is tab 1. When it starts tab 1, it enters into a for next loop. This loop is for I1, and down below here we'll say next I till it gets greater than 5 when it stops. Add 2 to it each time. In this loop, I is going to start at 1. When it gets to the next I, it's going to add 2 and become 3. 3 is not greater than 5. So it's going to return back up here to the 4J. Next time it goes to the I, it's going to come down to the next I here, add 2 to the 3, it becomes 5. 5 is not greater than 5, so it's going to go back here again. But then the next time when it gets to the next I, when I is 5 and it adds 2, it becomes 7. Therefore it is greater than 5. So it goes to the next instruction, which says home. Now, after the 4i is a 4j. J starts at 1, and when it hits the next j, it's going to add 1 to j, making it 2. 2 is not greater than 2, so it's going to return to the line after the 4j. And the next time it comes down and it's 2, it's going to add 1. That makes it 3. 3 is then greater than 2, so then it goes to the next I. So we know now that I is going to be 1, 3, and 5. J is going to be 1 and 2. Each time it goes into what we call the inner loop here, it's going to give the status value of I and the status value of J. It's going to appear on what's called the status line. So we'll be able to see what the value of I and J was each time it went around the loop. After the end of the loop, it's going to go home, which means to go back to the main program basics. Now we're going to execute the application. We notice here on the status line that I was 1, then I is 3, and then I is 5. We notice each time it was 1, J was 1 and J was 2. When it's 3, J was 1 and J was 2. And when it was 5, J was 1 and J was 2. So now let's look at the trail. Now this trail is much longer than we had in the first example, because we see it starting here with I of 1, J of 1. And if we follow through the trail, we'll go over here and we'll tell it to advance 9 instructions each time. You'll see all the times that it's going around the loop. And eventually it gets to the home instruction and the exit, which makes it go back to the basics main program and end. That's the end of the trail. Now the main program of basics has been changed to tell it to call subprogram 1 tab 2. So we'll go to subprogram 1. Here is tab 2. The next instruction says to test to see whether the adjust button or the test button has been pressed in the red stripe. If neither one has been pressed, it's going to continue on to the home and just go back to the main program. If one of them has been pressed, the value of T will be set to 0 if the adjust button is pressed, 1 if the test button has been pressed. So in the case of it being the adjust button, it will go to EB. T will not be greater than 0. It will be 0. It shows the status of T. It will halt the trail, and then it will go back to the main program. If the value of T is 1, indicating that the test button has been pressed, it will go to EC, show the value of T on the status line. Again, if it's on the trail, it will halt and say 1. Then it will go home to the main program and exit. Let's execute the application. Here we see that the test button has been pressed, making the value of T 1, and down here you see T is 1. We'll unpress test. Neither button is pressed, so it doesn't display T at all. If we press adjust, now it tells us that T is 0. Now we'll turn it back off again. Now we'll look at the trail. Here is the trail with the buttons, neither one pressed. You go to tab 2, tests on T, immediately just goes home and exits. If, however, adjust is on, T is 0, we go on the trail, we see it goes to tab 2, tests on T, goes to EB. Then it tests, see if T is greater than 0. Because it's not, it shows the status of t, which is 0, and then halt 0. Because we're on the trail, it stops at a halt. When we tell it to advance 9, it'll go to the exit. Turn the trail off, take adjust, put test on, t is a 1, we go to the trail, we see now the halt is 1. Then we'll just let it end the trail. That's the end of the trail. While programming, get information from the glossary by clicking Info. Thank you for watching.